Okay, so continuing from where we left off, we can see that question 25, this is testing us on however. So we have to know that however is a conjunctive adverb, or sometimes we call it the strong transition, right? It's like but and yet and however that leads to the main idea. So the most common way to punctuate, however, is that when you have a complete sentence before and after, you will use semicolon or period, however, comma, and then another complete sentence. But when your however comes within one sentence, you would have to use comma, comma, if that makes sense. All right. But the tricky part about however is that it can actually be placed in 3 different locations. It can be placed at the beginning, in the middle, in which case it would be comma, comma, or sometimes at the end. So we have to be careful which 2 sentences are of comparing relationship. So just to give you an idea, today if I have 3 sentences, SAT scores are important. They are only a part of the application. GPA and extracurricular activities are equally important. So if I want to use however, I need to make sure I put it in sentence number 2 because sentence 1 and 2 are contrasting each other. So I have 3 locations to put it. I can either put it in the beginning, right, in which that would be semicolon, however, comma, they are only one part. I can put it in the middle, they, comma, however, comma, are only a part of the application. Or I can put it at the end, they're only a part of the application, comma, however, period, or semicolon. All right, so this is the tricky part. So in this case, let's take a look at the sentence where however is. Starting from Scott Heron himself, ignore whatever comes before the period. Scott Heron himself resisted the Godfather. So we have a complete sentence, but afterwards we have a verbal. Feeling that it didn't encapsulate his devotion to the broader African American blues music tradition as well as bluesologist, the moniker he preferred. So this is getting too complicated. I'm going to start crossing stuff out. Cross out your prepositional phrases to the broader African American blues music tradition. Cross out as well as bluesologist. And then the moniker that he preferred, that is an appositive plus dependent clause. So essentially what you have is a phrase followed by another dependent clause. So you don't have a complete sentence. And that means you have to choose comma, however, comma. All right, so the answer would be C. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
chose
Okay, so you cannot choose B because if you choose semicolon here, you would have,
I chose D.
oh, D? All right, so yeah, that is a very common way, but do you see how B and D, they have semicolon? And essentially you will be creating a fragment. So what you need to do is cross out your phrases and know that they are dependent clauses, so they cannot stand alone.
Okay.
Yeah, and for number 26, so same thing, we start from beginning of the sentence. When viewed up close, however, so this is a participle phrase, cross out the adverb. The portraits reveal themselves to be quilts. Okay, so I have a complete sentence here. Stitching barely visible, cross out prepositional phrase among the thousands of pieces of printed microcut fabric. So I don't have a complete sentence. And if you remember our punctuation rule, after complete sentence, if we have a trailing phrase, we use a tag comma, right? So A, C, D are all wrong because comma and equals semicolon equals period. Okay. And number 27, which is our last question for now. This is transition. So we have to take a look at the relationship. So most conifers are evergreen. That is, they keep their green leaves or needles year-round. However, not all conifer species are evergreen. And do you see how now we're focusing on one specific example? So there is a change in scope. We're going from a general term of conifer tree to a specific example. So of course, the transition word would be a, for instance. Okay, and that is it for now.